Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for your patience. And today I would like to welcome to Sensory Spring 2021 conference series. This is our third seminar presentation this semester. And I'm Aminur. I'm the moderator for this Sensory conference series. The Sensory is a multidisciplinary group of researchers with interests in sensor materials, methods, devices, and sensor applications for healthcare, environment, civil, petroleum, chemical industries, and military applications. This group provides an opportunity to exchange ideas, present early findings, and explore collaborations and interdisciplinary funding opportunities. Sensoric's aim are to connect sensor technologies, middleware, and applications, and to provide an interface between academic and industrial research. Today, we have Dr. Dmitry Kireev with us. He will present his awesome research about all the e-tech tools. So before giving him the floor, I would like to express my invitation to all interested personnel to join Sensory Student Committee as an executive member. We would be very happy to have you in the team. Sensory give you an opportunity to utilize your skills and make network with other personal skills. So Dr. Dmitry Kireev is a research associate. Dr. Dmitry Kireev is a research associate at the University of Texas at Austin, working on applications of 2D materials such as graphene, molybdenum sulfide, etc. So his interest is into fields of bioelectronics, neuroprosthetics, and wearable electronics. He completed his PhD work at Institute of Bioelectronics. It's a research center in Germany. Pardon me if I cannot pronounce it. It's Forschungszentrum in Zurich, Germany. I'm very weak in my German pronunciations. And during these works at this research center, he was working on graphene-based devices for bioelectronics. He is a recipient of prestigious Erasmus Mundus Nano Scholarship and performed his master's study in KU Leuven and Chalmers University with majors in nanoelectronics. So before giving him the floor again, I would like to extend our invitation to everyone to join our team. We'd be really happy to have you. So let's enjoy the presentation on atomically thin wearable e-tech 2 for biosensing. And if you have any question, please feel free to ask after the presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Aminur. Thank you for this, for the great introduction. Yeah, my name is Dmitry, and my talk today is going to be about the atomically thin wearable electronic tattoos and biosensing based on those elements. And when I say atomically thin, in our case, in our application, we mean graphene and other 2D materials, because let me go to the first slide. And a lot of this work, and most of this work, is highly related to all kinds of bioelectronics. So biosensing, bioelectronics, highly connected and interconnected. And this is what we're interested in, connecting these two worlds of biology that is soft, elastic, that are living organisms, they're living, they're organic, they're very complex, and at the same time, the size range of the elements vary from tiny to large. And at on the other hand, we have electronics that are hard, that are static, they're programmable, but not really evolving, they're inorganic, they're large and bulky. So one of the ways forward to connect these two worlds is to using advanced and novel 2D materials such as graphene and perhaps other 2D TMDs, for example, specifically because of their electromechanical properties. Because, well, they're all functional, right? They can be used to build the interfaces. They can be used to measure electrical signals from the cells, measure electrical signals favorably. They're soft, elastic, flexible, super thin, extremely biocompatible. So there is an excellent match in 2D materials and application in integrating these both with biology and with electronics. And the main title of today's talk is electronic tattoos, right? And then whenever someone mentions electronic tattoos, this might be something that, you know, pops into your mind, or perhaps this kind of electronic tattoos will pop into your mind, like, well, why not, right? So the electronic tattoos that we use are graphene-based electronic tattoos. These are the real photos. I'm wearing a few of them on myself right now, and we'll have a short demonstration at the end of the talk. I hope that will work. So these tattoos, these graphene electronic tattoos, they are ultra thin, they're electrically conductive, they're optically transparent, they're not irritative on the skin. You can wear them for months, for days without really feeling any irritation. They're optically transparent and they conform to skin elegantly. Let's get to the question of why and what are we going to what do we want to do with those tattoos. And we as humans, we are full of all sorts of electrical signals that are good to tap on in all sorts of biomedical questions. On one side, there is brain that is full of neurons and other electrogenic cells. Then you, of course, have heart that is also electrical cells that also mechanically contract. Very important organ. Then there are, of course, muscles that they move, and due to this movement, you also have electrical signals associated with the muscle movement. You have eyes that have cornea and retina that provide electrical signals and stimulus when you look upright, left, or down. Then, of course, you have all others. So this is just some example, like this, DNA, gut. Gut is actually weird, but there is a really recent work that say that there is a very interesting connection between gut and brain, and the gut molecules and gut organism regulates how your brain works in a way. And in terms of nomenclature and what we can measure with the electronic tattoos, at least in the wearable format without implantable, there are EMGs, the electromyograms, so sort of recording muscle activity. There are EEGs, electroencephalograms, very much recording electrical activity from the surface of your brain, that can be used for all sorts of, let's say, epilepsy or all kind of neural disorders studies. There are EOGs, so you can electrooculagrams, so you can record the eye movement. I'll show an example of that. There's ECG, of course, measuring your heart activity, whatever your doctor does, and temperature, hydration. These are just some of the examples of electronic tattoo applications that I'll also cover today. And in terms of why is it interesting, why can't we just rely on what we can go to a doctor and measure this, right? What is important is when you go to the doctor, you usually go when you're already sick, you already have symptoms. What we want to build is a whole variety of sensors that you can use at home that will collect a big data. It will be cloud computed. It will build the algorithms of prediction the disease. So it will predict, it'll say, okay, Dmitry, you've been, I don't know, taking too much fatty food for the last months. You might want to reduce that. Otherwise, you have cardiovascular disease happening in the next year or two. So this prediction and prevention of the diseases is what is sort of driving the work forward. And really nice is that we can do a lot of those measurements with this really easily usable wearable electronic tattoos compared to if look a little bit in the past. This is how the first electrocardiogram device looked like. It was developed in 1903 by William Eidhoven, and they actually got Nobel Prize for that in 1924. So like here, this huge machine, you put your right hand and left, and so both hands and one of the legs into highly concentrated salty water to measure electrocardiogram. These days, we can just record that by placing this really tiny electronic graphene tattoos on your chest or on both hands. I'll show that later today. And you can measure electrocardiogram at home, maybe even stream it to your phone, even send it to your doctor if you like. In the same way, we can measure electromyograms, muscle activity with graphene tattoos, and here is the comparison of graphene measurement compared to, the typical gel electrodes. EMGs are really important for building perhaps next generation robotic interfaces. Um, then, as I mentioned, we can also, with the same graphene tattoos, we can measure temperature and hydration of the skin. This is perhaps very important in on wearable application for soldiers or for people in maybe firefighters, when amount of equipment that you wear is limited. They're already wearing a lot of equipment. You don't want to have another few kilos of hydration monitoring device. So then you can do the same with this purely wearable graphene electronic tattoos. And the fabrication of those tattoos is really simple. We actually used a large scale copper foil to grow the graphene. And then we transfer this graphene tattoo on this, well, we transfer the graphene onto PMMA, and with the PMMA, we transfer it on a tattoo paper. This is literally a tattoo paper, like you had probably had like when you were kids, you just wet it up a little bit, put on the skin, remove, and you have graphene right on your body. And this is just a very simple video of how you can cut those tattoos. So you can use this mechanical cutter, very simple machine, and you can cut your tattoos in any random dimension as you like. You can have a bull, you can have all sorts of serpentine shapes, or whichever shape you want, whichever is important and required for the application that you are targeting. And you can transfer them. Once again, you can transfer them on the skin. They're very they adhere to skin very well. Very interestingly, they are very the adhesion to skin is just amazing. They don't get washed off. You can move your hand, your wrist. So there is like an array of 10 tattoos here on each wrist. You can pour a lot of water on it, and it still stays there. So they don't just get removed easily. Yes, and besides graphene, as I mentioned, it's not just graphene, and graphene is an excellent 2D material, but it's not the best, not the only, perhaps not just the best 2D material for those applications. And recently we developed a new sorts of electronic tattoos based on platinum diselenide and platinum telluride. So these are transition metal chalcogenides that are grown by selenizing or tellurizing a layer of platinum. What is the beauty of this process is that it can be done at very low temperatures, like around 400 Celsius. Sort of low. It is very low for a CMOS application, and it is also very useful for wearable applications, because you can grow it directly on Kapton or on all sorts of flexible polymers. And as you can see in this graph, this PT-SU2 and PT-T2 are extremely conducting. So they, from 3 nanometers of platinum, you get around 15 nanometers of PT-T2 that has a sheet resistance of 100 ohm per square. At 6 nanometers, you get something like 10 ohm per square. So it is an excellent 2D material for all sorts of wearable applications, which is what we've also done. We fabricated these electronic tattoos on Kapton or on PMMA as well, put them on skin, and measured electrical properties of skin. We measured impedance and sheet resistance, of course. So on graph B, what you can look at graph B, so this is like a benchmarking of graphene, PT-SU2, PT-T2, just platinum, gold, and standard medical grade reference electrodes. What is important is you will want to be at the lowest, at the bottom left corner here. So you want as low impedance and as low sheet resistance for the applications that we are targeting. So obviously monolayer graphene is really outperformed by both PT-SU2 and PT-T2. Probably, of course, these are a little bit thicker materials, not just a monolayer of those materials. But we can see that PTT2 outperforms gold tattoos and even this medical grade gel reference electrodes. And we use them for all sorts of electrical signal recordings, like I've showed before, ECG, EEG, and EMG. I'm just not going to show them here for the sake of time. It's just, repeating the same patterns. One very interesting application that we've tried with those tattoos is we actually put them right over their eyes, and if you put two tattoos on the top and at the bottom of your eye, and then another pair of tattoos on the left on the right side of your left and right eye, you can measure electrical signals associated with your eye movement, your gazing left, right, up, or down, because your retina and cornea produce specific electrical signals when you look in a specific pattern. And we can distinguish the patterns. If we can distinguish the pattern for looking right, left, up, or down. And we can actually even just, in another experiment, we looked in the circular motion from like looking up to 12 hours, for example, the 9, 6, 3. And we can distinguish the eye moving from, let's say, from 12 to 9 is the same as eye moving to the left and to the down. So it is a very promising tool for, let's say, wearable human-machine interfaces, not like robotic interfaces for people with disabilities, for example. And of course, you might think that all those recordings would require, highly complex equipment. I'm in the lab right now, right? But that is really not the case. And actually, I will stop sharing at the moment. I think we have time. So just before, actually around 9 a.m. today, so earlier today, I put a few tattoos on my left and on the right hand. So there's 2 tattoos here. And I have this open BCI board that can measure electrocardiogram, electrooculagram. So all those recordings can be done with this little board that is so. It is actually open source code, and everything is open there. And I'm just going to connect myself to that. And let me reshare it back. And I'll use this GUI. So I'll connect myself to those graphene electronic tattoos, and we will try to record electrocardiogram. So you might see if I'm nervous or not during this talk. Probably am. One moment. So I'm just connecting 2 wires. So one wire goes to the tattoo on my left hand, another to the tattoo on my right hand. And there is also a ground wire connected to an abdomen. Okay, I'm connected. So the moment I start the recording, it's going to be noisy just because I'm, connected to my laptop. But then I will remove myself from that, and the noise should go better. Okay, there it's very noisy, but let's hope that it gets better. Give it some time. Okay. Something is not connected. Maybe now. Okay, that's somehow might have damaged them during my talk. Maybe I've scratched them, or let's see now. Maybe. Okay, so the demo didn't work. I apologize for that. But it was a bet. It would either work or not. But I did a series of recordings before that. So let me just load this load the file from today. Should be it. Okay, let's start now. So this is a recording from earlier today. So you can see those really beautiful regular ECG signals from, well, from myself. So these are the recordings that you can do at home in perfectly home conditions. And well, ECGs are just one of the recordings you can do. All of the electrooculograms, electromyograms that are done with the tattoos that I showed earlier, they were all done with this little board. So it is really all usable for low cost ambulatory at home application. With that, let me conclude with just saying once again, as I mentioned, these 2D materials, of course, we're working with graphene and this PTSO2 and PTT2 that I mentioned, but the world of 2D materials is huge and still keeps growing. There are new functionalities, new applications, and well, new 2D materials also appearing probably on a weekly basis. So there are a lot of unanswered and probably some research opportunities that we don't even know of. And let me say thank you for supervisors, collaborators, and funding agencies. And I will be happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Dimitri. This was really a nice presentation. I was always curious about different kind of gangs and their tattoo signs. Now I figured it out that also scientists can have different gangs and they have e-tattoos for their own good. So I would like to invite anyone who wants to ask questions. Please unmute yourself and feel free to ask any questions regarding this research. So there is a question from Dr. Hattar. She is asking, how would you make the electrodes sensitive and selective to specific biomarkers? And what kind of biomedical application will require the tattoos? So these are the two questions. It's on the chat.
Right. So right now it is not specific to a biomarker. So right now it is like a passive electrode that is measuring surface electrical potential. That depending on where we place it and how we record, we just record one of surface potentials. Like if we place it on the head, we measure EEGs. We place it here on muscle activity, we measure EMG. So just depending on how we measure and where we measure, we sort of target the application. There are, of course, ways of, so the graphene transistors are used for all kinds of biomarker detection. And then the graphene is functionalized with specific molecules that later on are specific to biomarkers. So like you can functionalize graphene with COVID-19 antibody, for example, and then use it for COVID-19 detection biosensor. This is actually another work that we are pursuing in the lab right now. So this is not entirely wearable. This is so far just on, in vitro, so like just a graphene transistor with an electrolyte. This is where you can do more targeted biosensing for a specific bioanalyte.
So I have a question regarding this.
Yep.
So I have done ECG a couple of times for some other medical reasons, and I have seen they were putting a little bit of fluids, maybe something for better electrode connections, and as well as diminishing the sweating effect on the electrodes. So does actually sweat affects the signal of the electrodes?
It doesn't really. So the only way it would affect it would just make it better, right? Because I mean, sweat is highly salty liquid, so it would only make it better. What you mentioned with gels, that's unfortunate. Exactly with all the current state of the art, it's like you're either using like this very jelly electrodes. I'm just looking around if I have a handy. Anyway, so like they're super jelly and sticky, or there are like these gold cups that, you know, those are especially used for EEGs. Like there are gold cups that are filled with conductive electrolyte, which are not really, also not really, you know, maybe not really user friendly for, you know, using it by yourself, and then you have to wash it off. Those graphene tattoos, you can just, you know, once you're done recording, you can just remove it with a simple medical tape.
This is an awesome presentation, I would say. Already our audiences are giving their praises to you. If we don't have any questions, I would like to thank Dimitri for his beautiful presentations. And please feel free to send any comments or suggestions to our email address. Our email address is sensorrigstudents@utilis.utexas.edu. Also, you can follow us on Twitter and also on YouTube. This video will be available on YouTube. If you have missed some portion of this video, this will be uploaded on the YouTube. Our YouTube and Twitter handle is SensorRigs. We are the only channels named SensorRigs, so there are no way that you can get confused. And now I would like to invite our audiences for our next presentations. Siam, can you let me share the screen, please? So our next presentation will based on detection of contaminants of hand sanitizers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good day.